Hi friends, hello, hi, how are you? I hope you guys are having an amazing day today. Hello, hi, welcome. So today's video, we are doing a video that has been highly anticipated and highly requested from you guys, and I've been working on this video. This is actually, okay, spoiler alert, this is like the third time I'm filming this video, and that is because this topic, these two people we're going to talk about today, there is so much, number one, and number two, because they have a joint channel and also two separate channels, figuring out how to do a layout for this type of video was very hard for me. So I apologize for people who have been waiting for a few weeks for this to get up. I'm really excited because today we are doing the evolution of Niki and Gabi Beauty here on YouTube. Now, if you don't know who they are, fear not. That's what this video is about, is telling you who they are. But I do just want to quickly say that today's video is thankfully sponsored by Casetify. Roll the clip. This video is sponsored by Casetify. I've been using Casetify cases for a while now, and pretty much the number one reason why I love these cases so much is because not only are they adorable, like look at this cactus, so cute. Not only are they adorable, they also really protect your phone and prevent any sort of cracks or breaks in your screen. Not only are Casetify's cases slim and protective, their impact cases are engineered with 2-layer construction of Chi-Tech, and they're drop test approved for up to 6.6 feet, which basically just means that your phone is so much more protected than using some type of cheap Amazon phone case. Probably my favorite thing about Casetify is that you can customize the phone cases with your initials or your name. Also have a ton of adorable designs that will match basically any mood that you are in. Also, they're partially made of recycled plastics, so you can feel really good about your phone looking great. If you want to get some adorable phone cases, you can go to casetify.com/smokeyglow today and get 20% off your purchase. Thank you so much to Casetify for sponsoring this video and supporting the channel, and I hope you guys will go check them out. Thank you so much again to Casetify, and I'll be sure to leave the link down below to get some cute phone cases. I'm wearing my little butterfly one right now. Got my little pop socket on it. Okay, let's jump right in. There's a lot of information we got to get through, and hopefully this one actually works. So a couple of months ago, I did a video called The Evolution of Lifestyle YouTubers, and basically I talked about kind of the influencers that were grown adults but were still making back to school content, and kind of how the genre of lifestyle influencer evolved and where some of the main people in that genre are today. And actually, initially when I did that video, I was going to include Niki and Gabi in that because I would argue they are two of the more successful lifestyle YouTubers today. They've been able to evolve their content relatively well to stay pretty relevant and maintain really good views on YouTube, which I think is something, you know, to be proud of. But as I researched them more and more, I kind of realized that they have a very interesting story on their own that would actually be very cool for a video like this. Niki and Gabi DiMartino are twin sisters who are currently 25 years old, and they live in Pennsylvania. Sometimes they go back and forth between LA and Pennsylvania, but right now they're both in PA. Their first video was uploaded on September 3rd, 2012, which was a Demi Lovato inspired hair tutorial that only featured Niki, and then the following day, a video on how to look like Ariana Grande featuring only Gabi was posted. I think it's important to note that while this channel, their Niki and Gabi Beauty channel, which is what it was called back in 2012, before that channel, they actually had another channel that got like a little bit of popularity that was basically them and their friends doing sort of skits or spoof videos that were super, super popular on YouTube back in the early 2010s. Those videos never really took off for them, and they basically decided that they wanted to start their own sort of twin channel, and that is how Niki and Gabi Beauty was created. It kind of seems like in the beginning they wanted to be a collab channel in a more traditional sense. So they really didn't appear in videos together super often. In fact, it was a couple of months before you even saw them together at all. It was really just they would pick a concept, so say they wanted to do like a hair tutorial, and one of them would do it for their hair and the other one the next day would do a separate video for them. Or if they wanted to do room tours, one day one would show their room, the next day the other would upload a video showing the other's room. And it kind of worked like that, where they did back and forth style content. You can see some days 2 videos from the same person would be posted in a row, but for the most part they alternated posting videos and posting content on their channel. You can definitely tell from their early sort of videos, which this makes sense because in 2012, lifestyle YouTubers were a thing, but beauty YouTubers were a lot more prominent. So you could kind of tell in the beginning that they wanted to be more makeup and fashion and beauty YouTubers and focus more on that instead of doing these sort of daily vlogs or challenge videos that lifestyle influencing kind of turned into. Their early videos basically consisted of like room tours tours, makeup tutorials, hair tutorials, and also, since they were still in high school, they would often do kind of school vlogs, which would just be basically them and their friends like messing around in lockers, you know? I think it's really interesting to note that in the beginning, Niki and Gabi look so similar that it's actually incredibly difficult to tell them apart. It's crazy how similar they look in the beginning, especially compared to now where they definitely both look a lot more different. But I will say that from the get, their personalities were very obviously different. They were definitely the stereotypical opposite twin, where Niki was a little bit more tomboyish and she was maybe a little bit more like edgy, and Gabi had the very girly princess vibes that she was always going for. So that has not changed at all throughout the years. They're sort of different personas on the internet. Their hair tutorials and stuff actually did do pretty well in the beginning, but I would say for the most part, their views kind of started out a little bit slower. It wasn't like they posted 2 videos and then blew up overnight. I would say that their view and subscriber gain is pretty consistent with how other YouTubers were doing during the 2012s. There just weren't as many people on the platform of YouTube, so you weren't seeing the Tana Mojos like blowing up and getting 1 million subscribers in 1 month. The views and the growth was a little bit more gradual. Now, in April of 2013, they posted their very first video that was together, and they called it the twin tag, and this was basically just them just kind of showing again how opposite they were. So for example, Niki would be like, I like sunglasses, and then Gabi would be like, I like bows. Like, it was very much from the get, their whole thing was opposite twins, and that is what they stuck with throughout their entire career. Now, during this time in 2013, they were definitely growing and having a lot of success, but you can definitely tell, especially by like the comment sections of a lot of their videos, that their fan base skewed a little bit younger than they were, which makes sense. I think a lot of it was just young girls looking for maybe like fashion and beauty tips, and they stumbled across Niki and Gabi, like their personalities, and then sort of became fans of them. A video that I found really interesting was uploaded in 2013, and it was basically Niki and Gabi partaking in the Draw My Life challenge, where you kind of like draw everything on a whiteboard and like do a voiceover about your life. And it showed a lot of really interesting insights into their life. During one part, especially when they were talking about their experience in middle school, they discussed how they had to be really, really close because they were kind of severely bullied in middle school, and they felt like it was a very them against the world mentality, so that they had this really, really tight bond because of the sort of things that they went through. Now, in 2013, the twins both started college, and you could definitely see a shift in their content during this time. It kind of went from very high school vibes to college vibes. So instead of room tours, we were getting dorm tours, and instead of like hair and makeup videos, we got a lot more of those like lookbook lifestyle type of videos. So about a year after posting in late 2013, they were at about 100,000 subscribers, which for the time, 2013, that's a very large channel. And they had a large following that really looked up to them, kind of like older sisters. Like if you go through the comments of their older videos, that's kind of the number one comment, is people feel like they're getting advice and learning from these 2 girls like they would their sisters. Even during this time, they were still very much doing the making separate content thing. They still weren't appearing in videos together that often, and they were really sticking to the I upload a video this day, you upload it this day. However, at the end of 2013, they filmed their sort of first official sit down video where they like sat down together and filmed just talking to a camera, and this was a haul video. And based on the comments and the engagement on that video, you can see that this went over really, really well for their channel. Like their subscribers loved seeing them together, loved their dynamic, and loved seeing all of the stuff that they bought, which prompted them to do a What I Got for Christmas haul in 2013, sitting down together. And this also kind of started doing more videos together and not so many apart. Now, this I actually didn't know, and I thought this was super interesting, but I guess in 2014, they produced a show with Awesomeness TV. It seems like it was like a YouTube show that was basically just a lookbook show. It was really supposed to be like a fashion show where they showed different outfits and different styles. I couldn't find a ton of information on what happened to this show or how everything happened, but I found their announcement video, and I find it to be really interesting that they worked with Awesomeness TV back in 2014, because later on they would go on to have a reality show with Awesomeness TV that was basically their version of Spring Breakers. Now, in 2014, you can start to see the twins change their appearances to look different. And I don't think this is that weird. I think some people react, especially reading those comments, a lot of people reacted poorly to them doing this. But for example, Gabi dyed her hair lighter. She went sort of a blonde color. Niki dyed her hair darker and kind of a little bit edgier of a color. And I honestly think that this is just normal teen behavior. I feel like most most teenagers go to college and go through somewhat of an identity crisis where you're just trying out a bunch of different things, trying to find your vibe, your look. I also would imagine that that sort of pressure to find your own identity was really heightened when you consider the fact that they're twins, and that they were constantly being compared to each other on the internet. However, by doing this, I think a sort of unintentional effect was that they were branded even more like the opposite twins, because now you have one that's blonde and one that has black hair, one is more girly, one is more edgy, and it sort of made their differences even more prominent the more they changed their physical appearances. Now in 2014, even though they weren't filming those sort of sit-down videos together as much, they were definitely vlogging together a lot more and doing these more lookbook videos together, and it seems like their fans really loved it. They started really blowing up in 2014, and that's definitely when their subscriber count started like popping off. It's also really important to note that at this point in their career, their content was very family friendly. Like, it was super PC, super family friendly. Like, we're talking premium YouTube ads. Like, they were not doing any sort of really racy or sexualized content in the slightest. Everything was very kid friendly. And honestly, I can see why from a business or financial perspective that's a really smart move. I don't believe that was necessarily authentic. I think definitely in these sort of videos, they're playing a little bit more of a family-friendly character than a lot of people realized at the time. Now, in the summer of 2014, this is definitely where there was a really big shift in their content together. This was their first big sort of move, and that was to start filming pretty much all of their videos together. They stopped doing the individual videos, and for the most part, every video on their channel started to be videos of them together. First one, which has so many views, it's ridiculous, but it was called the Opposite Twins Morning Routine. It basically showcased everything we've already talked about, how different their lifestyles were. Like, Gabi woke up and birds were chirping and she like had a Cinderella nightgown on, and Niki woke up in like plaid pajama pants and like got Dunkin' Donuts. I don't know. They really just tried to showcase and really push on the fact that they had completely opposite personalities, almost to the point of like it was very Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen. Like, I feel like that's kind of where they drew inspo from, because it was very much like one is a tomboy, one is a girly girl, done. No intersection happening in the slightest. That's also low-key why I think a lot of this was sort of them playing characters, because there's no way that they were just that drastically different. Like, they had to have some similarities. We know now that they have similarities. So anyway, now Niki and Gabi definitely fell into that traditional lifestyle influencer sort of genre that I've already talked about in my other video. But to summarize it, basically they fell into that doing back to school videos, despite the fact that they were like 21 years old and in college, but they were doing like back to high school videos. They would do sort of skit style videos about what it was like to be back in high school. And this really only further pushed their sort of family friendly image, and also started this sort of skit style content that they would do on their channel, which was very popular in like 2014, 2015. They had this series that was called Get the Look that seemed to be really popular on their channel, where basically they would show how to look like a celebrity on a budget. So they did people like Demi Lovato, Gabi did Audrey Hepburn, where they showed how to sort of turn yourself into this celebrity. The videos were actually good. Like, the production quality was really good. It was almost like a well-produced TV show, if that makes sense. Wasn't necessarily their personalities shining through too much. It was more scripted. Now, when they first started shooting videos together, it actually seems like their dynamic on camera paired together very well, because Niki was definitely a little bit more like energetic and out there, and Gabi had a much more sort of subdued personality. So the two definitely meshed well on camera, and it also seemed like they genuinely liked and enjoyed being around each other. 2014 also was the year that they started posting more cover style videos. They had posted covers on their other channel, and they had sprinkled covers into this channel as well, but this was when they first started doing more professional style cover, like music videos. So by the spring of 2015, they had hit 1 million subscribers, and they were definitely on this kind of train of well-produced, high-quality content that was definitely a little bit scripted and really played into this sort of opposite twins trope. Do not take a shot every time I say opposite twins. Don't do it. Pause. Okay, I'm kidding. That's from their video, but I did actually write pause in the script. I've watched too much of their content. No, pause, because I feel like it's really important to break something down here, because we're at the 2015 point, and it's important to note the obvious problem with portraying yourself on the internet as opposite twins. And that sort of obvious problem is, especially when you have a young audience, your audience is going to identify with one or the other, because you're offering two ends of the spectrum, and people will either identify with Gabi being super girly, or maybe they'll identify more with Niki being more tomboyish. But this sort of opposite trope led to a lot of competition, and also led to their fan base hating on the twin that they didn't identify with. I don't know if Niki and Gabi could have foreseen that happening, because obviously hindsight is 2020. Like, obviously I know what happens in their journey. So it's easy for me to look at this uptick in opposite content and see the very obvious flaw with that plan, which is that it's going to split your audience. So it's easy for me to say that I don't think they knew at the time that's what was going to happen, but it definitely has had a lasting impact on their content. Because to this day, if you go through their comment sections, it's fairly obvious during different phases of their career that one twin was liked a lot more than the other. And if one twin was kind of being praised, it usually meant that the other was getting a lot of hate, and vice versa. For a long time, Gabi was kind of the popular twin because she was a little bit more calm. She had the very girly vibe that was a little bit different. She was very extra, and people really gravitated towards her, which meant that Niki ended up getting a ton of hate for not being like Gabi. But now it's almost like they've switched. Niki's a lot more popular, so Gabi is starting to get a lot more hate. Basically, I think any time that you're constantly comparing yourself to another human being, especially someone who looks just like you as an identical twin, I think anytime you do that in a positive or negative way, it's really just going to be a recipe for disaster. But I always question, because obviously it was good for their career to do that. They've blown up, they've become incredibly successful being this sort of shtick. But I always question if personally, on a personal level, they regret marketing themselves that way. And I kind of think they do, based on the way they talk about it in their videos and everything. Kind of think they do regret marketing themselves so heavily as opposites, because it definitely put a divide in their fan base, which I'm sure mentally really messed with them as well. Now, Niki and Gabi also have put out some original songs. Their first one in 2015 was called It. And the song isn't like bad. I mean, it's not a horrible song. Their singing isn't awful, but it's definitely not like superstar quality. It's very much like YouTube music video type thing, especially this song in particular. The songs that they do together are very much like YouTube music video, but I would argue that Niki actually has some bangers on her own. Gabi, I'm not a big fan of her music, but Niki's music is actually pretty good. I like it. Now, 2015 is also when they really hit their stride and they just started blowing up on the platform. They were gaining millions of subscribers. They started going out to LA to collab with other influencers. And this is when they really became a part of the lifestyle genre and were kind of cemented in that category because they were hanging out with people like Tila Dunn, Alicia Marie. That was their crowd, and they definitely fell into that group. They also participated in the Girls Night In tour, which I talked about in my lifestyle influencer video. That tour was bananas. It was just them like lip singing covers and dancing and playing with balloons. But anyway, so they did that, but they also performed their original songs. So in 2015, Niki also dyed her hair blue, which became kind of a defining trait for her. Gabi went even more blonde, and again, this really just continued the narrative of being like opposite twins. They were really stretching it out as far as they could, that they were exact polar opposites. And also they were posting like skit videos, covers. They had those like expectation versus reality videos that usually did really, really well for them. And at this point, I think they really turned their back on sort of traditional beauty content. Like they didn't do the chit chat get ready with me's, they didn't do makeup looks, they didn't do hair tutorials anymore. And they really just dove headfirst into lifestyle as a genre on YouTube. And now in 2015, something very interesting happened, which is that they both started their own individual vlog channels. So Niki had Niki Damar and Gabi had Fancy Vlogs by Gab. And while these channels were successful, they got a lot of views and subscribers, this I think even further put that divide in their online relationship because Gabi's channel always had more subscribers. Her videos got more views than Niki independently. And I think that that definitely hurt Niki, especially during this time. It's very obvious watching their vlog channels who cares about YouTube as like their craft, and that is Niki. But I think the separate vlog channels really showed who was kind of the brains behind the Niki and Gabi channel. Because Niki was very obviously the one doing the editing because her vlog editing was so good. Gabi's was just kind of like cut together clips, you know, didn't really have a concept. It was just her vlogging her day, whereas Niki had these really cool concepts. And I also think that in 2015, after they created their separate vlog channels, this is where I could definitely see more tension building on the actual Niki and Gabi together channel. There started to become this sort of level of competitiveness between the two girls that there hadn't been before they did their separate channels as well. Now in 2016, I would argue that this was definitely a year where a lot started to change for them. I would argue 2016 was a very large sort of pivotal moment for them and their channel. In 2016, Gabi started getting a lot of plastic surgery. And personally, I don't really know if the topic of influencers talking about plastic plastic surgery is a topic that can be covered in this video, because I would actually make a whole video about that, honestly, because I think it's a really interesting topic to discuss. There's a lot of sides to it, but I will say that Gabi did get a lot of criticism for getting all of this plastic surgery. And also in 2016, they started getting in sort of scandals. They were starting to get called out by their fans for having their videos be so overproduced and not really authentic. Gabi got in some scandals because she was like rude to a Starbucks employee, and it was, you know, she Snapchatted about it, so she seemed really out of touch. I think, again, that sort of cloud that followed them their whole career about them being out of touch and spoiled really came to a head in 2016, because a lot of the fans that had started following them back in 2014 were 2 years older and maybe didn't connect with the twins like they used to, especially given that it started to kind of seem like their egos were inflating with the success of their YouTube channel. I think they were facing kind of growing pains that a lot of lifestyle YouTubers faced in the year of 2016, because for the last 3 years they had been incredibly family friendly and acted like young characters in these skits, while also being like 22 and 23-year-olds and wanting to post like bikini pictures and act like mature adults in their vlogs and content. It was kind of this battle between staying as a character and becoming an actual person and being real and true to who you were. I think in 2016, and I think a lot of lifestyle influencers felt this, but I think Niki and Gabi especially are a good example of influencers who almost felt like they were living this like double life, where they would go out and party at night, but then the next day be posting a first day of school expectation versus reality video. And honestly, that split was seen in their vlog channel and their main channel content, because their vlog channel was all about them partying and hanging out with their friends and, you know, doing all these crazy things, but then on their main channel they're doing like DIYs. It just wasn't adding up, and I think a lot of their fans started to notice that sort of shift in personality from the main channel to the vlog channel. I think 2016 was incredibly successful for them numbers wise, but it's clear from the comments that their core subscriber base, like the people that had been there with them from the get, were just kind of fed up with this sort of fake and not real content. You could tell that they wanted to see more sit-down videos that reflected their real personalities and less of these skits, which if you look at kind of trends on YouTube, checks out. By 2016, I think most people were fed up with skits and things like that on YouTube. People wanted more real, authentic, sort of long form content. Now in early 2017, Niki and Gabi actually addressed this, which to their credit, especially looking at the kind of careers of other lifestyle influencers, they did this a little bit earlier than other lifestyle YouTubers did. Most lifestyle YouTubers kind of tried to milk the trends all the way through 2017 and 2018. Niki and Gabi, I think, did something that was really smart, which was that they listened to their audience early. They didn't wait until everything was kind of falling apart. They didn't wait until views were low, because they were still getting really good views at the end of 2016. Like, they still probably made bank. Their videos were doing fine, but I think they listened to their subscriber base pretty early on and started to make those content shifts early enough that it felt a little bit more organic. And I think this is something that they don't get enough credit for, is they were able to adapt from that sort of high school family-friendly content into this more mature adult, but still, you know, family-friendly-ish, but this sort of adult-like concept that was more authentic to them. They made that transition probably the best out of all of the lifestyle influencers that were in that genre, because they did it so early. And I also think because they were so honest. While there's definitely still doing that more trendy content that was happening in the lifestyle genre, they started inputting more of their actual personalities into their skits and sketches and started making them a lot less scripted and made them more sort of challenge-based, which I think really, really helped get to know them as people a little bit better. Now, as I mentioned before, Niki and Gabi had worked with Awesomeness TV, and in 2017, they started a show with Awesomeness TV called Niki and Gabi Spring Break. And the premise of the show was basically them and their hometown friends renting this big Airbnb and having like a week-long vacation somewhere. The early seasons of the show were actually shot like in Pennsylvania. So instead of like going somewhere, they just like had spring break at an Airbnb like 10 minutes from their house, which is kind of weird, but like whatever. The show itself, I have a whole video on season 5. I actually watched all of season 5. I've actually watched all the seasons at this point, but I watched all of season 5 and I had a lot to say about that show. So you can go watch that if you're interested in my thoughts on the show overall. But basically it was kind of a Jersey Shore wannabe type show where it was just like kind of overly produced drama, friends fighting. You kind of question why they even like each other in the first place, but then they're all friends again in the end. Like, that's kind of the gist of the show. So that was all happening. And then also on their main channel, they started doing these more competition-based videos. So they started to see like who could style an outfit better, and they would have their fans vote in the comments below. Whose boyfriend was better, and they would like have their fans vote down below. Who was better at, you know, taking pictures or doing this DIY thing, and they would have their fans vote down below. And I think that this sort of voting and competition, again, just really intensified this sort of Niki versus Gabi debate within their fandom. And I think that this, again, I'm sure view-wise it was great. You can look at the views. I'm sure they made so much money. But like emotionally, I can imagine it's incredibly difficult to be just constantly compared and constantly critiqued and constantly kind of put up against a person who is physically your twin. And I think it was even harder because it wasn't sort of a fair and balanced, like sometimes Niki won, sometimes Gabi won. In these early videos, it was pretty much always Gabi who was winning. Like Gabi was always winning these challenges. People would always say really negative things about Niki. And you could tell that this put a negative strain on Niki in particular, especially because it has been discussed in recent years that she was doing the majority of the work for the Niki and Gabi channel as far as like editing and concepts. And you could see that Gabi really didn't put in as much effort. She kind of just like showed up. Yet she was the one getting all of the attention and all of the credit and all of the praise, and Niki was always the one that was kind of the butt of the joke, and the fans didn't seem to connect with her as much. So I can understand why, especially from Niki's perspective, she would be incredibly frustrated with that. But also I do think that in a way they put themselves in that position in the first place. Also during these videos, like they would do like life swaps or style swaps, they always were just low-key dissing each other in the videos and being like mean about the other person's style. Like Niki would tell Gabi she'd have to wear these cutout jeans, and Gabi would like roll her eyes and make a joke about how horrible Niki's clothing was. And that again, like just fueled their fans into hating one twin or the other. You could definitely tell towards the end of 2017 and into 2018 that they were starting to make more mature content. The content definitely reflected their age and demographic a lot better. And again, I think because this happened organically over the course of a year, instead of someone like Alicia Marie who did like an about face and had to just completely revamp her channel all at once, I think that that's why they were able to maintain this level of success during this time. I will say they definitely did fall a little bit victim to that sort of Disney Channel syndrome that I've talked about in other videos, where I think they did sometimes try to push the boundaries and push it just a little too far. Like for example, they have a song called Hair Tie. I don't really want to talk about the song because I don't want to get demonetized, but it's basically like you need a hair tie. And if you know, you know. And that's all I'm gonna say about that. It was weird. It was a weird song. It was a weird music video. It was super weird because it's like two sisters singing about blood. And it was weird. It was a weird song. I think they went a little too far. And I think their music in particular was a place where they really tried to be a little bit more edgy and push those boundaries of being less family friendly. Their main channel videos still were pretty PC, but definitely the music videos got kind of edgy and weird, which I think a lot of people criticized. Like a lot of people. They also started doing more individual music in 2017, which also made it really clear who was kind of more serious about YouTube and who wasn't. Because Gabi's songs and videos were often really low quality, like not super well done, not great. Whereas Niki's tended to be a little bit more high production value. You could tell that she put a lot of thought into the songwriting process. Like hers were definitely objectively better. But again, Gabi, because she had a much stronger fan base, her videos tended to get more views and tended to do better despite objectively being the worse of the two. I think in 2017, you started to see a shift on their vlog channels because Niki started treating her vlog channel almost like the main channel. She started doing these like fashion challenge videos where she would like shop at weird stores and try to style the outfits. She would do DIYs on her channel. Videos always had a sort of concept and a clear theme to them, whereas Gabi definitely stuck to more traditional vlogging. It was just kind of day in the life, which there's nothing wrong with that. You could just tell that their two styles and their commitment to YouTube was definitely very different. Now, during this time, Gabi also started a series on her vlog channel that was called Blood Queens. And basically this was her recreating Scream Queens. It was like her ode to the show that she really liked and it got canceled. So she wanted to kind of create her own version of the show. And again, I don't mean to sort of diss Gabi, but it's just so obvious to me, especially looking at production value, who kind of put in the effort with YouTube and who was kind of skating by off of guaranteed success. Because the Blood Queen series is objectively really bad. It's really bad. It's like not good. The production quality is horrible. The acting is horrible. The scripting is horrible. The attention to detail is abysmal. Like the show itself, the way that Gabi did it is just like not good. Like I understand maybe not wanting to put a ton of money into something that might not make a lot of money, but she's on like season 5 of doing this Blood Queens thing now, and it has not gotten at all better. Like, not even a little bit better. Now, despite all of this, despite Gabi's videos being a lot less quality and a lot less time put into them, her videos were still outperforming Niki's in 2018. And I think that, again, you can really tell the strain that was starting to be put on their relationship in 2018. Their videos, you can just tell they low-key, like, do not like each other when they're filming together. You can tell that they're happier doing their own thing, filming their own content. And when they're together, there was almost this, like, tension that I know it isn't even just me that picked up on it, because all of their comments are talking about this weird, like, tension that they have with each other, this weird sort of competitiveness, this weird sort of dynamic that they've created. It was like little things. Like, you could tell that when Niki lost a challenge, she would get like actually upset that she lost and the fans voted for Gabi again. You could see Gabi like always rolling her eyes at Niki and making snide comments about her. And it made the dynamic between the two honestly really uncomfortable to watch, not only for me, but like their fan base, I think, started getting a little bit uncomfortable with the dynamic. And I think this was honestly exacerbated by the reality TV show that they were doing with Awesomeness TV, because they were constantly fighting on the show. And I think it really showed how off camera and off their sort of scripted set that they were doing these videos on, off of that, they really did not get along. Like, they argued constantly, they yelled at each other, they said horrible things to each other. Gabi was like very mean, like incredibly mean, and Niki was always really upset with her. The reality show kind of pulled back this curtain, because on their main channel, they very much presented as like, yes, we're opposites, but like we love each other very much. But then when you saw the reality show, it was pretty apparent that they like did not like each other very much. They fought constantly. And I grew up with 3 sisters, like, and mostly close in age. Like, I get it. Having sisters is hard. You fight all the time. But there was some like very vicious behavior happening between the two of them that you could sense on their main channel videos, but now you had like proof that it was actually happening because of this reality show. I also think that during this time in 2018, it's really important to talk about the sort of perception of Niki and Gabi outside of just their fan base, because obviously their fan base, there was kind of almost like politics in the fan base of like which twin you liked more. But outside of their fan base as a whole, they were definitely not the most respected YouTubers. And I think they got a lot of hate, people outside of their realm, because they were known as sort of bratty and stuck up, and people felt like their content was really fake. And also they were really heavily mocked for being kind of wannabe celebrities. Gabi got a lot of hate because she basically over the years transformed into an Ariana Grande lookalike, which I can't even argue with that, because like she does. She looks, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, she held up a picture of Ariana and that's what she asked for. But like, it kind of seems like it. She really seems like she wants to be this Ariana Grande impersonator. And same thing with Niki. It felt like Niki was always trying to be like Demi Lovato or Halsey or Billie Eilish. And it felt like they were always kind of trying to be wannabes. And they ended up getting a lot of hate from fans of the singers that they were trying to impersonate. Ariana Grande fans in particular did not like Gabi for a long time. Ariana Grande even went so far as to shade Gabi at one point because she looked so much like her, and all of her fans kept pointing it out. She later apologized and like put her in the Thank You Next music video, but that's a whole different topic. The feud that they had is a whole different video, but all you need to know is Ariana Grande even found out that Gabi looked so much like her and thought it was kind of weird. Now, Niki and Gabi, to their credit, like they did definitely poke fun at this perception of themselves. Like they used it to kind of troll. They would make videos like trying to look like Ariana Grande that would get a lot of views, which was a lot of hate, but they made a lot of money off of kind of poking fun at people's perception of them. And I really don't know how to feel about this, because like I find it kind of harmless. If they were just trying to look like somebody else, I don't really understand why stans of celebrities get so upset when other people kind of try to look like them. I really don't understand that sort of hatred. But at the same time, like, why not just be yourself, you know? Like, why not just be sort of authentically you? Why try to be somebody else? Now, going on to from 2018, their main channel content has not had any sort of massive pivots or changes. It's really just been the same type of competition, challenge, lifestyle content. They did like a 24-hour shopping challenge. They do Instagram challenges. They do clothing challenges. Like that's kind of their whole brand. And from 2018 onward, I think they really found a groove that worked for them, and they just sort of rode that wave. I think what's more important to focus on from 2018 onward is sort of their individual careers and their individual content. Because from that point on, their main channel hasn't changed. Their personalities and their sort of personas online have absolutely changed. Let's start with Niki. Niki in 2018 and 2019 started receiving a ton of hate and backlash on her main channel. I think a lot of people felt like she just needed a reality check, like she was too whiny, she was too spoiled, all of those things that we already talked about. It was really exacerbated in her videos. Like, she did one video titled Wearing Pink for a week and basically just talked about how much she hated the color pink, and she definitely got branded as one of the I'm not like other girls kind of people. But she herself has said that she is like that. Like, she has owned up to the fact that she's very much a not like other girls girl. She's always trying to be kind of edgy and different. She basically, I think, went on a mission to try to be the opposite of Gabi. She also had a video that was titled Trying to be Positive for One Day, which was basically just her being incredibly negative, but then like smiling at random points and being like, but I'm gonna be positive. And this just got so much hate and backlash from her fans. Like, everybody just felt like she was being really negative all the time. She was complaining about the smallest things. There's bigger problems in the world. Like, she went through all of this. Now, Niki opened up about this criticism actually in 2019, which, to Niki's credit, I will say, I think that she definitely, out of Niki and Gabi, is kind of the most honest and authentic of the two. Sometimes to a detriment to her, I think, but for the most part, I think she's willing to sit down and kind of just use YouTube as like a diary almost and explain exactly what she's feeling and thinking. And I think that that was a really big positive for her, especially considering how much backlash she was getting in like 2018, 2019. She finally sat down and made a video called Living in Someone Else's Shadow, where she really broke down the sort of pain that she went through being a sister to Gabi, who she always felt like was better than her, who she always felt like Gabi was the more popular one, the more well-liked one, and she always had to kind of compare herself to that and how detrimental that was to her mental health. Which, honestly, I mean, again, if you look at the course of their career, that seems like an obvious thing that would happen to her. And it made sense why in her videos she was always very negative or complaining or trying to be not like other girls. I don't even think that Niki tries to be not like other girls, because her style and her sort of vibe is very similar to most girls that you see on Instagram nowadays. I think she was trying to not be like Gabi. I think she did everything in her power to try to not be like her twin sister because she wanted to be different and not feel like she was constantly being compared to Gabi. And Niki also in this video opened up about the fact that doing this sort of opposite twins trope was actually a really, really bad thing for her mentally, which again, totally makes sense. She also discussed trying to be more independent and not feeling successful at being independent because she was always kind of the unpopular twin. Here's the thing. I have opinions about Niki in the sense that I agree with the criticism that I think she is a little out of touch with like reality sometimes. I think she does say things that can be very off-putting. I think she does sort of live her life like it's a Pinterest board, which Alex... basically just like she thinks like boys love blue, and if she likes blue that means she's edgy. Like, I definitely see the criticisms of Niki as valid. I understand that. However, I do feel bad for her. Like, she seems like she genuinely just loves YouTube and loves creating content, and you can tell like that she has such a passion for what she does on the internet, which is honestly kind of rare, especially in the lifestyle influencer genre. A lot of these lifestyle influencers kind of just take for granted that they're going to make, you know, 7 figures posting videos just of whatever they want, so they just do that. You can tell watching Niki's individual content, and especially her daily vlogs, you can really see how much effort and energy she puts into what she does. I honestly kind of feel for her. I feel for her that she's the one that puts in all the work, but Gabi is often the one that gets all of the credit for that just because of the nature of how they set up their channel. And honestly, even though they kind of created the problem by doing the whole Niki versus Gabi shtick, I also think they just had no way of knowing what that would turn into and how toxic of a fan base that would create. And so I kind of also understand it. After this video, it seemed like Niki kind of worked to find her actual independence. While she still sometimes gets critiques that she's like fake edgy, it seems like she has come into herself now in her vlog channel videos, and she tends to get a lot more praise and support than Gabi. Also, her music gets way more praise and support than Gabi's music. It kind of seems like that video in 2019 was a bit of a turning point for her, and you can tell that she definitely is trying to put in the work to be more authentic to herself, to kind of not be as afraid of being compared to Gabi as she used to be. I know right now, before I talk about Gabi, that people are going to be like, oh, you have a bias towards Niki. I really don't. I don't really enjoy either of their content or their twin content, but I just think as an outside observer and as an adult, Niki's content is objectively, from my opinion, how I like content. I like her content better. And also, Gabi, I just find her to be incredibly manipulative. And especially given how young her fan base is, I find that to be incredibly problematic. Gabi is constantly consistently for the past 3 years has been doing undisclosed sponsorships on her vlog channel. She does ones for gaming apps. She even did one for like a credit card that kids could have, which is like, I can't even begin to talk about that, but she constantly is doing undisclosed sponsorships. She puts them in her vlogs as if they're just things that she likes, but it's very obvious that she's being paid by the brand to talk about it. And she talks about it in a way that is manipulative to get her young audience to go and support her by downloading this app or getting this credit card. She also calls her followers fancy babies, which I just think is super weird. Whenever celebrities like unironically give names, like I jokingly will be like, oh, you're the glow sticks, or like, you know, but whatever celebrity or influencers unironically give their fan base names, I always think it's kind of weird. The only person I've ever seen pull it off unironically is James Charles and the sisters, and that even was so weird to me at first. I think he's just done it so much that it's worn me down. But I think that by doing this, she kind of creates this parasocial relationship with her followers. She's known for doing the Fancy Babies sleepover, where she invites like 20 of her followers over to her house for a sleepover. So it's a bunch of teens with like Gabi, who's in her 20s, having a sleepover. I don't know. I think that her dynamic with her fans, she very much, instead of focusing on creating like interesting content, she feeds into that parasocial relationship to kind of make her money and get her fans to support her. Her vlogs are usually edited very simply, and she relies a lot on clickbait to get clicks and views. Usually it's like, OMG, you'll never guess what happened. And then it's like her limo got a flat tire. Something like that. And also, I find her content really interesting, especially her individual content, because a lot of it revolves around this sort of very luxurious lifestyle that she lives. She buys a lot of luxury bags, she takes limos everywhere, she wears all these really fancy, expensive clothes, and I always find it weird that people vlog their lifestyle, that the vlog that they're creating has made them. Does that make sense? It's kind of like an endless loop. Like, she got famous, she got to buy all of the nice things, she shows the nice things, that makes her more famous, and then the loop just continues to go around and around. It's very interesting. Gabi also does a lot of vlogs centering around plastic surgery and has been pretty heavily criticized for how open she is about plastic surgery. Her sort of defense to this is that she feels like she's being honest about her experiences, so if anybody else wants to get those procedures, they can go get it and they can know kind of what to expect based on her experience. I would argue that most of her like 14 to 16-year-old fan base isn't going to be getting those plastic surgery procedures. So I more think she does it because those videos tend to make a lot of money because people click on them. But also, I kind of see both sides. I see the good in that it's good she's not lying about getting plastic surgery, and it's good that she's not like creating these unrealistic expectations. I think that that's a positive. But I also see sort of the negative side to doing things like that, where it definitely promotes going out and getting plastic surgery for every kind of insecurity, because she has gotten like a ton of plastic surgery. I'm not saying this to be mean because I don't think she looks bad, but she looks drastically different than she did when she first started doing YouTube back in 2012. I also think in general, and I think you can say this about a lot of YouTubers, but I think for Gabi it's just really apparent because of the like undisclosed sponsorships and also just the way she acts in a lot of her videos. I think that she doesn't necessarily really care about her subscriber base past what they can provide for her. And I kind of feel the same way about Niki. I think Niki likes her fan base because they allow her to create this cool content, and she obviously likes doing it. And I think Gabi likes her fan base because they allow her to buy luxury bags and like live a very luxurious lifestyle. I think there's a difference in their motivation behind having fans, you know? Now in 2020, Gabi got in a ton of scandals. Her first one was a TikTok that went viral where she basically bragged that she spends about $9,000 a week. And also brags about like having a personal chef, and basically compared herself to her friend who made like minimum wage and lived in an apartment and spent like $50 a week. And everybody just thought it was really poor taste, especially given that we were in a pandemic and most people couldn't put food on the table. It was very weird to hear Gabi flexing on her friend that she spends $9,000 a week just like shopping. She tried to say that it was a joke and that she was just like kidding with her friend, but that didn't go over well. And obviously we had the drama that happened last year. That was the OnlyFans drama. I did a bunch of videos covering that topic, but basically Gabi posted a video on her OnlyFans and had it behind a paywall of her as a little child lifting up her dress and exposing herself, and it was just generally bad. She did make an apology video for it, but based on what we're seeing, the apology video didn't really mean anything. She basically like got engaged during that time, so she was just like going to parties and then basically started posting vlogs again like nothing happened. So while I think that this kind of had a bad hit to her reputation, I think that her core fan base definitely definitely stuck with her through these sort of scandals. I think most of the hate that she got was from people who weren't fans to begin with. They just knew of her, because her views really have not changed too significantly. I will say though that the OnlyFans drama in particular, the impact of that wasn't just on Gabi. Niki faced a lot of criticism by association because of that, and also that led to them not posting on the Niki and Gabi channel, and they still haven't posted as of recording this. I know that they're planning on doing some type of comeback, but as of right now, they haven't posted anything on their main channel in months, and this is the longest that they've gone without posting on that channel since they started it. Niki ended up making a statement about the situation, kind of denouncing Gabi's actions, and they've just been uploading their own sort of separate content on their own separate channels. So now we're kind of at the point, we're caught up to the present of like, where are they now and where do we kind of see them going? And this is kind of a predictions, because obviously I have literally no idea what's gonna happen. I think Niki and Gabi are honestly more interesting than other content creators that I have sort of looked into in this series, because they have done an excellent job at evolving their content and still kind of staying authentic to themselves. Like, if you watch how they did everything, it's almost like they're a blueprint of how to evolve content to the ever kind of ebbs and flows of YouTube, the changing trends. They're kind of the blueprint on how to do that because they've done it so successfully. You never see a time where there's like a massive dip in views. You never see a time where people aren't super interested in what they're putting out. Like, they've stayed very consistent for the most part this entire time and done a great job at continually evolving their channel and content. I would argue that all three channels, their individual vlog channels and the Niki and Gabi channel, are still incredibly relevant here on YouTube. Based on their subscriber count, they get really good views. They're pretty much always meeting that 10% engagement. Like, I think they're doing relatively well. So even though they've had all of this sort of professional success, I would argue that the real problem that they're going to be facing in the next couple of years, and the real issue, is the internal problems that they have. I think that these internal relationships is what is eventually going to lead to the end of the Niki and Gabi channel. And I don't even think that's going to happen like super soon. I think they are going to start posting again, and I think they are going to continue with this channel. But I think eventually the Niki and Gabi channel is going to be phased out. I think there's a couple reasons for this. Number one, they're both doing fairly well on their own. Especially Niki. Her vlog channel does super well views-wise, and honestly, so does Gabi's. Like, they do well independently. Their music careers and music videos perform well independently. They don't necessarily need each other and need that joint channel the way that they used to back in, say, like 2016. It also is kind of apparent that because they're still continuing on with the main Niki and Gabi channel, it seems to really be taking a toll in their relationship. You can really tell on screen that they just do not vibe well together anymore. And maybe after this break, they'll come back and maybe they've, like, you know, had some time to talk it out, but for the most part, they are not doing great. Honestly, they've been public about the fact that they don't have a great relationship as sisters anymore. They did a whole kind of therapy session video with Gabi Hannah, of all people, and basically sat down and tried to talk out all of these issues with Gabi as like the mediator. I honestly think anytime you're trying to do that, it's just, it's never going to be authentic if you're filming it for millions of people to see. But they talked openly about how they have a lot of resentments for each other, how they feel kind of hurt by each other, how they don't really like working together anymore. And this is all pretty heavily documented. I think the point of posting that video was to show after that that there was going to be this big change and that they were going to be really more open in their videos. They were going to like each other a lot more in their videos. But that big change never happened. That sort of therapy session happened and then everything went back to how it was before it had happened. I also think they've kind of outgrown the content that they make on the Niki and Gabi channel. I mean, recently, in one of their most recent videos, they tried to talk about like vibrators and sex toys in one of their videos, and they had to give like a million disclaimers because they know that their fan base is younger and they know that they're going to get hate for promoting things like that to a younger audience. It seems like their fan base on their vlog channel is a little bit more mature and older, and seems like they kind of just vibe with their personalities, and it's less about these sort of challenge-like videos that usually appeal to a younger crowd. I also think while it might sound crazy to leave a channel that has almost 10 million subscribers and is doing relatively well view-wise, I almost think it would be better for their individual careers, especially Niki. Because right now, Niki is putting kind of double the work into the channel. She puts so much effort into the Niki and Gabi content and her own content, whereas if she could just put those ideas towards her own content, I think she would honestly like flourish on YouTube. Especially because Gabi has been getting in all of these scandals and has a really bad, I'm not saying like, oh, leave your sister, because she has like a bad reputation, but on top of Gabi's already not great reputation and people kind of starting to turn on her for this very diva-like behavior, on top of all of that, her content has not really grown or evolved on her personal channel in a very long time. It's still a little bit lazier and content she obviously doesn't put as much work into. I actually went into this video not really being the biggest fan of either of these two people, but coming out of it, I actually like Niki like a lot more than I thought I would. I think that honestly, her relationship with Gabi and their dynamic together can sometimes make her seem different than how she actually is, especially in her individual vlog content. I don't always agree with Niki's behavior, especially in the reality show where Niki sometimes does some very questionable things that I really disagree with. I think besides that, she just seems like a genuine person who genuinely loves making YouTube content. That's all you can really ask for from a content creator. And I honestly think the opposite is happening for Gabi. I think she has what Niki doesn't, in that she has a die-hard fan base that will like always support her. But I think this constant kind of bad behavior is making a lot of her die-hard fans sort of turn away from her. I also think another reason they're going to end is because I do not think that Gabi can handle not being the favorite twin. I don't know if this is conscious or not, but basically they posted a video a while back and Niki was getting a lot more praise and Gabi was getting a lot more hate, which is something that Niki has had to deal with for years. Like, people have been so vicious towards Niki and so positive towards Gabi, but it kind of flipped in one video. People were being a lot more positive towards Niki and hating on Gabi, and Gabi made Niki delete the video. She like couldn't handle not being the favorite twin, not being everyone's favorite. You can see that because Gabi has been going down in being kind of the favorite and Niki has been going up, you can see that really mentally messing with Gabi. Like, she's not handling that transition well, and I think that's also going to lead to the end of their channel. I think Niki and Gabi are so interesting because while they're often sort of picked on and joked about on the internet, they transitioned into every new phase of their channel expertly. Like, it was seamless the way that they transitioned. YouTube is kind of all about evolving and transforming your content, and they have never really experienced a lull in their content until super recently. To give credit where credit is due, they have been incredibly successful when most other lifestyle YouTubers weren't. And I think when you peel back some of the layers on what appears to be two girls who are obsessed with image and aesthetics, you kind of also have two girls who have built an empire that has been able to outlast all of their peers. And I think that's incredibly interesting. And that is the evolution of Niki and Gabi. Woo! All right, I hope you guys liked this video. I hope it was at least somewhat interesting for you. Make sure you let me know down below what you think about Niki and Gabi and kind of what we've talked about today. I found them to be some of the most interesting people that I've been able to look into. And also let me know down below who you would like me to look into next, or what brands or anything like that, because I'm kind of getting back on the Evolution of train. So thank you guys so much. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please like and subscribe, or just like, or just subscribe, or do neither. Honestly, just so happy you're watching me. Thank you so much for being here. My merch, my social media, and everything I'm wearing on my face will be linked down below, along with my little social justice corner. Go check that out. Stay informed, stay involved. I love you guys so much, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!